Thank you for joining us on another episode of Beyond the Listing, where we discuss the business of real estate outside of the listing environment. I'm your host, Jeremy Madore. And today I have the pleasure of sitting with...
Hi, I'm Laura Baliestiero with Coldwell Banker, and I'm also the leader of the Laura B team.
I'm really happy that you came into the studio today to have a discussion, and I cannot wait to see what kind of conversation unfolds here.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
What are some things that have kind of come about for you guys recently that you're like, I haven't dealt with this before, or this again?
Well, a lot about the new way we're getting paid.
Yeah.
So it's been less than a week, and there's a whole bunch of contracts that buyers now have to sign before they get into a house. And there's a bunch of options a seller has in regards to paying the buyer's agent, and rules have changed.
For my benefit, could you walk through that with me? Because I've heard a lot about it, I've read a lot about it, but not really the how-to of it.
Okay, do you want to talk about it is that what we're going to talk about?
We're already rolling.
Oh, we're already rolling? Wow.
Rolling. So
I had no idea.
We're just going to slip right into it, Laura.
Okay, so the world of real estate changed less than a week ago. On August 17th, we are now required to, before we show a buyer a house, they have to sign a contract with us. And Coldwell Banker has 5 contracts that they can sign, but they have to sign one. And the contracts can vary from, I just want you to show me this one house, to I want you to show me houses for the next, however long we decide. This is a negotiable.
Okay.
And then we talk about who pays the agent, because even though we love this business, we are not volunteers. We need to get paid at the end of the transaction.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I was thinking about it last night. It's kind of like dating. The rules have changed on dating. Right, it used to be the guy would take you out on a date on the first date, and he would pay for you. Sure. And now it's not so clear, right?
Sure.
Who pays? Who pays?
The lines are fuzzy.
Right.
Yeah.
The restaurant needs to get paid, but is he going to pay? Am I going to pay? Are we going to split the bill? Are we going Dutch? What's going on? So it's the same with the world of real estate. The agent needs to get paid, but who's going to pay them? Right. So traditionally, the seller has paid out of the proceeds the buyer's agent, and that hopefully will still continue.
Okay.
I know as a strong listing agent, I'm going to continue to encourage my sellers to pay the buyer's agent, because we need the buyer's agent. We need the buyer's agent to educate the buyer.
It's the 50% of the transaction. It's the other half.
Right.
Without the buyer's agent, without the buyer, you have no deal.
Right. And we need the buyer to understand, a lot of information they can get online, but they need the buyer's agent to translate what that information really actually means.
It's not all correct.
It's not all correct.
Hearsay, a lot of, conjecture and everything. And unfortunately, for somebody who's going through it the first time, or maybe even for the first time in a while,
right,
it's fraught with peril, so to speak.
Right. And the market is not straight. The market goes up, the market goes down.
Sure.
And sometimes when people rely on information, it's actually outdated or historical information. Even if a sale sold across the street this month, that's not necessarily accurate, because that buying decision was typically made 60 days ago. Yeah. So really the movement of the market is on what's pending and what those pending sales went under agreement for. So a good buyer's agent is so important, so buyers make good buying decisions. They choose good inspectors. They align themselves with reputable mortgage companies and just make sure that the process goes smoothly. And they really make sure that where they're buying is a place they want to live. Sometimes, buyers think, oh, this is absolutely fantastic, and they make decisions that are based on what they think is what they see. They see, a beautiful lot, a beautiful neighborhood, across the street, some woods, but maybe they don't realize that those woods could be redeveloped and the woods could become,
Especially
whatever.
If they've already expressed this to their buyer's agent. The agent, as a representative of the buyer, could help pump the brakes as needed wherever they see a potential pitfall for the buyer that might not be able to see it because they're either married to the outcome, right? 'Cause
Exactly.
they're already looking at the house as the one,
Right.
and then they're glossing over the things that they're not, that they otherwise maybe in a more out of place area they might actually object to, right? Like I've bought and sold 3 properties now,
Sure.
and I'm involved in real estate. I still glossed over things.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
That's just human nature, right?
Absolutely.
Or maybe it's my nature, but I'm more of an optimist at heart. I have a pragmatic side where I'm just like, well, this is the obvious answer. But then when it comes to, lifestyle or just an environment, when I feel home, I feel home. And everything else, I can figure that out, that kind of thing, right? And so I tend to maybe downplay some things that might be considered more severe for other people, but for me, they're not really a big deal because I have the tools or whatever. But it's very easy for a buyer to do that when they're in love with a home and forget all the other details. So there is definitely still a need for that buyer agent representative to vouch for the buyer at that point.
Right. There's sort of a feeling in the market right now that a lot of these buyers are going to go directly to the listing agent
Okay.
and present themselves as unrepresentative.
Okay.
And in that particular case, if that happens, it puts the buyer, even though they think they may be saving money, at a real disadvantage because the listing broker will still represent the seller. It's about as ridiculous as going to the same attorney if you're getting divorced.
Right.
You need somebody who's really going to just protect your interest and be very fiduciary for you because this is in most people's lives the biggest, largest decision financially that they make.
Right.
And they have to make it with guidance and whatnot.
Yeah. So what you're talking about is dual agency. You're not advocating for it, you're advocating against it in regards to how it doesn't truly work for both the buyer and seller. Somebody's going to win in the end and someone's going to lose.
Correct.
Potentially.
Unrepresented buyers is a little bit different than dual agency.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you for clarifying
But
that.
in both cases, you do not have exclusive representation.
Got it.
And I think that I know from my experience that's not a good position for a buyer to be in.
Sure,
You
sure.
know, for a seller, it is what it is, but for a buyer, it's not good. Especially these first-time buyers, there's so much hand-holding, there's so much explaining, there's so much understanding. And also, as a good buyer's agent, my hope is that when the buyer decides to sell their house, which most buyers stay in homes approximately 7 years, so possibly in 7 years before or after, they'll call me and they'll say to me, Laura, we want to sell this house.
Yeah.
And I'll go there and I'll put the house on the market, and then I start giving them feedback, and I'll say, everybody thinks that the road is too busy or the rooms are too small, but a good buyer's agent, when they buy, has already told them what the negatives are of the home.
Okay.
And that's really an important message for the buyer to know, because they will hear it. They will hear it again when they're
Right.
when they're looking to sell.
It won't come as a shock to them, or maybe they have a productive response to that,
Right. Or maybe they don't mind.
Right.
But they need to know what the buying public's perception is
Yep.
of the property or the location.
Yep.
I think it's really important.
Yeah, and so we did a podcast prior to you arriving today with one of our employees. We wanted to start kind of showcasing some of our team, and one of the bits of feedback that she and I were talking about was how you can get stuck in your own head really easily, right? And how you see what you see, and unless someone else comes in and says, "Oh, did you see that thing over there?" you might not be able to see the thing over there. And so it's very easy to form your own opinions fairly uninfluenced if you don't have influencing factors like another agent involved or just other voices that are contributing to the overall outcome.
Absolutely. Sort of being devil's advocate.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that that's really important. Or having somebody say, I think that the offer that you're making is too high. I think that this is an emotional purchase, and that's fine. Buying a house can be emotional,
Sure.
but you need somebody to calibrate your expectations on what's really the value and what's an emotional purchase. And I support wherever when somebody's coming from, but I at least want them to know where that position is in the realm of reality.
Yep. Yep. Now, how does this how does the court decision impact things like pre-qualification, pre-approvals, things of that nature? Is this independent of that, or because I know that a lot of times buyers agents weren't actively looking with buyers unless there was some form of, is it pre-qual or pre-approval?
A pre-approval is much stronger than a pre-qualification.
I always forget those.
Right. So I personally would not go out with anybody, and I know my team is quite respectful of their time also.
Yep.
You know, we do this for business. We take it seriously. Our time is valuable.
You don't want
and we
kicking.
want to work with people who are ready and able.
Right. Yeah.
We say the perfect DNA, which is desire, need, and ability.
Oh, okay.
And the ability part might be the last letter, but it's the first for us. We want to make sure that we're showing them houses that are really in their price range. Everybody falls in love with houses that are more expensive than they can afford.
It's easy to do that.
It's easy to do that, so we want to calibrate it to reality,
Sure.
and we want to make sure that they're working with reputable lenders.
Yeah.
I know myself, I consider myself a strong listing agent, and if I get an offer from a buyer whose pre-approval is from one of these internet companies that they
Sure.
do, you know, in the middle of the night and
Yep.
are not local or reputable, and I'm not familiar with them, I don't take their pre-approval
Sure.
seriously.
Sure.
So I really, really want to make sure that the buyers not only have a pre-approval, but they have a pre-approval that is respected in the brokerage community,
Yeah,
because
that makes
that's
sense.
so important.
Yeah, that makes sense. So the court decision doesn't impact any of those things.
No.
However, how would you as a seller's agent be able to screen the buyers who don't have the proper paperwork lined up?
Well, if they submit an offer,
Yeah.
the offer, regardless of the price, terms, and conditions, means nothing to me unless it's accompanied with a strong pre-approval
There it is.
letter.
Okay. All right.
If their pre-approval letter is a weak pre-approval letter or a pre-qualification, which a pre-qualification means that they haven't investigated everything, it's just based on what the buyer
It's
has.
statistics, maybe.
Right.
Yeah.
Then I will request that that buyer meet with one of my trusted mortgage advisors.
Yep.
And we have a bunch that we really like, and their rates are fabulous and are competitive, and we just want to make sure that we are well representing our sellers with buyers that have the ability to proceed.
All right. So it sounds like you have a determined plan of action in place.
Yes.
How you guys are going to proceed
Right.
as these things continue to evolve and settle,
Right.
right? The dust may have settled on the court ruling. However, it's only starting to get kicked up in the
Right.
actual local community because it wasn't really impactful for us until just recently.
Right. It's very important to make sure that people are making huge decisions based on what you're representing. And I'm really good at sniffing out something that looks like, I don't know, this feels fishy.
Yeah, listen to your gut.
It just I'm not gonna recommend something that I don't believe in with my whole heart. And there are those situations. And I've been selling real estate for a long time. Our team averages about 2 houses a week, so we, depending on the year, could be as many as 3 or 4 houses a week.
Okay.
But we're pretty consistent with at least 2 houses a week, and there's barely or rarely a situation that arises that we haven't spotted before.
Right.
So when something goes not in the direction we want, we can redirect quickly. We understand how to get things back on track or throw them off the track.
Sure. Some damage control.
Yeah,
plan
it's
B,
very
so
important.
to speak. Yeah, very much. Yeah, definitely being able to be aware of those pitfalls, not only prior, but detect them as they're coming along. Even if you're only just a few feet from it, that advance notice is huge, right? And that happens with us. We'll pull up to a home, and either because of agent reputation or because of the appearance of the home or just other factors that we might be able to kind of sniff out, we know what we're in for normally, right? Or we'll have defense mechanisms, so to speak, or game plans put into place so that when you do walk into a situation that's X, Y, or Z, you know how to react to it, and so we have we have backup plans. Yesterday we had an employee who dropped a lens because his hands were shaking. He was just nervous because of an interaction that had just happened, and he dropped the lens and it shattered. And so Keith just hopped right on the road and went to go do that. That was. I don't know if was it before or after the jumper cable education. Was that someone? It was someone different. Okay.
Well, it's great to have teamwork, and that's one thing my team does. We support each other, and I think it's so incredibly important because we not only work really hard, we want to play really hard, and we want to have a full and good life. Right. And I think by being there for one another and respecting that and wanting that. It makes us much happier and more successful globally or whatnot. Yeah. I think that's important.
If you did this over again, if you rewound yourself to the back to the beginning of your real estate career, right. What if anything would you really do differently, or are you happy with how things have gone?
I started when I was in college. My mom owned a real estate company. I was going to school to become an elementary school teacher, special ed teacher, and she was going into the hospital to have a minor surgical procedure, and she asked me to get my license just to help her for a couple of weeks. Well, that couple of weeks turned into many decades later, and I have to tell you, it was not my initial decision to be an agent, but it has been so rewarding. It has been such an honor to be able to help people with, moving and relocating and building dreams and being part of people's happiest day, because when you open a door, sometimes it's the happiest day of your life, and that same door, when you close it, can be the saddest day of your life.
For sure.
And I have been so blessed with a fabulous career and an opportunity to serve our community, and if I could do it all over again, there's nothing I would change.
That's fantastic to hear. A lot of people, not a lot of people, maybe that's an overreach. There are people who live life a little bit too much looking in the rear view. Yeah. You're not one of those people.
I look in the rearview mirror and I say, God, how lucky have I been?
That's great.
That's fantastic. And I say I'm going to keep doing it till I stop having fun, and I'm still having fun. And I have this little plaque on my desk that says, if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life. And I can say that not every day I love it, but I can count on my right hand the days that I've not loved it. Right. I feel really a lot of gratitude for a career that has introduced me to so many good people, and many of them have become lifelong friends, and I feel so blessed.
You found fulfillment.
I feel blessed.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Not a lot of people can say that genuinely. There are a lot of people who work in this business because they're aggressive, right? They're aggressive. They know how to close a deal. They're good salespeople. But rarely do they also have a lot of joy associated with the job, right? This needs to be a both and in order for it to be sustainable long term. Right. And it sounds to me like you got that good mixture. So we were introduced because of Jamie, who works on your team, and she's been with you for a number of years now. Right. You have a good support system in place, not just agents that are under you, but also back-end personnel, correct? Correct. Okay. And Jamie's role primarily is, I'll let you fill that one in.
Jamie is everything. She's really wonderful. She stepped into the role about 4 years ago after my assistant of 14 years left, and I thought, oh my God.
14 years, that's a big
It was a marriage. It was a marriage, and I loved her. My assistant, I've loved all my assistants, but this one was like family, and I was really sad that she left, and I thought, oh, this is going to be so hard to replace her. But I did replace her, and Jamie has been everything I needed. Plus, she brings an I-can-do attitude. She is a cheerleader, a doer. She is a seeker of facts. She is sunshine. She walks in and she's bright and she's happy and sets the tone for the day. And I'm grateful. I'm really grateful. It came from a place of thinking, oh, this isn't going to be good, to this has been great.
For sure. No,
I've been very
I can
grateful.
respect that. I can respect that. We've had similar interactions, with transitions for employees.
So hard.
It is. It
So
is.
hard.
It really is. And you have a lot of hope for when you hire people on. And then, of course, they make their own, they make their own success, right?
Right.
And you give them the systems, you give them the support, and then, the proof comes out in the pudding, so to speak. And
Well, I can give them the support,
Yep.
but I can't give them the systems because she brings a skill set that I cannot do, right?
okay.
So
All right.
I can say to her, I need this. It's like asking somebody what time it is. I know I need to know the time, but I have no idea how the watch works. She knows how the watch works. She makes sure that it's, working seamlessly,
Yep.
and then she tells me the time, and it's
Yep.
always right. So how lucky am I?
No, well, that's the description of a good team lead.
Right.
That you are seeking to implement people under and around you
Right.
that do better at things than you do.
Right. Oh, much better. I
Right.
couldn't do it.
I can't do what Keith does. That's for darn sure. He blows my socks off with his capacity.
Right.
Danielle does her job way better than I can do her job.
Right.
I can do her job, but it takes a lot more effort for me to do it than it does for her because she's just natural at it.
Right.
And so it's just one of those things where as business owners and as leaders, we do need to identify where we can implement people to make our systems
Right.
better.
And I make a conscious decision every day to really focus on the things that bring me joy and fulfillment, and putting systems in place and trying to figure out, how to make something look beautiful or descriptive or organized. I respect people who have stronger strengths at that, and I'm grateful that she does.
That is not one of the things that brings you joy.
No. If you need me to sell your house, I can do a great job.
Sure.
But if you need me to stage your house or make a beautiful brochure in your house, I'm probably not the girl you want.
That's fair. That's fair. Outside of real estate, what is your biggest joy?
So I have had so much joy in my life, and I can say probably the biggest joy in my life was my husband, who passed away a few years ago. He was really important to me, and he was very sick for about 10 years, and that was really hard to see him demise. But I have the memories, and I'm grateful, and I have 2 children, 1 stepson, 4 grandchildren, and I've moved on with my life in other ways, and I've been able to find happiness and joy in other areas that I didn't think were possible. But I would probably say my biggest happiness factor was probably my husband.
Sure.
I had a great marriage.
That's wonderful. That's really wonderful. So you have no regrets with that. You have no regrets with your career, not anything that stands out, right? Like we all have issues and challenges that we encounter, right? Regardless of how good your business or how good your marriage is, you're going to have those kinds of stumbling blocks, but it's how we deal with them and how we get through them. And it sounds to me like you've picked the high road.
Right.
That's
I've been
good.
very, very lucky in the area of love and very lucky in the area of employment.
That's wonderful.
Right.
That's wonderful. So your service areas are primarily...
So, being licensed in Massachusetts, we can go anywhere. The sweet spot for me is Concord, Carlisle, Westford, Chelmsford, Bedford, Sudbury, Acton, Lexington. So really,
So a little bit of like the Route 3, 495 corridor kind
right.
of
That's
tucked area.
that's really our sweet spot.
Yep.
I also have moved 23 times in about 30 years.
Wow.
So I'm a
My
mover.
wife needs to hear this. Okay.
Right.
All right. We've moved 9 and we're exhausted.
So I'm really good. Like if you lived in that area, I probably have been your neighbor. But I have a lot of empathy on how hard it is to pack up and move
The
on,
process.
and I also have a lot of understanding on what it takes in terms of having your children and your family readjust. My kids moved 8 times and never changed bus drivers, and they still had a hard time.
Oh,
we were in
my
the
goodness.
same
Okay.
town, same whatever,
Right.
and it was really eye-opening for me because I thought, oh, this will be an easy move.
Sure. Same school, same bus driver, whatever.
Right.
But it was a different room, different home.
Different home,
Yeah,
different
they had to get resettled
whatever.
each time.
And I think it probably made them better people because they were able to adjust. But at the time, it made them sad people because they were like, Mom, what are we doing? You know,
I like the old place. I like my old room. I had everything where I needed it. Yeah.
And we didn't always move from good to better. We often went from good to worse, to better to best, or, you know, whatever. So
pragmatic.
Right.
Yeah,
my husband was a contractor and we loved a project and they didn't.
That's good. That's rich. Wow. Wow. Okay. Yeah. Describe to me the general premise of that. Were you finding these properties and he was saying yes, or was he coming to you? How did that work?
He was my best client. He always wanted to move. He always wanted, you know, like the paint dried. It was all right, honey. Let's do it again. So he definitely drove the bus and moving, and I was, well, you know, that was good. Yeah. It was all good.
Yeah. You guys were a team in it. You made it happen. Right. That's awesome. So, describe to me your team. How many agents do you have?
So, my team has been in existence for quite some time. We've been in existence for over 20 years. It comprises of a gentleman by the name of Barry Diamond, who is my most senior member of my team. Barry's probably been with me for about 15 or 16 years. The time goes by so incredibly quickly. But he is a fabulous, fabulous broker. They are all fabulous brokers. I have two women who have been with me for quite some time also. Maria Maloney, she has been with me probably almost as long as Barry. And then Janet Vino. Maria and Janet are, if I was going to be a buyer, I couldn't think of nobody better than the agents on my team to have represent me. But these two women, plus Barry, are my most senior members of my team. And I have seen them act with such amazing grace with the easiest of situations and the most difficult of situations. We are open and receptive to challenges, and they have continually proved to me that they can accept the challenges, work through the challenges, and keep things very harmonic or with harmony. Yeah, you know, and I think that's a really wonderful quality that those people have. Yep. Last year I added two new people on my team. Both of them had experienced. One is Jackie O'Neill. She's a young mom. We have another young mom, Angie, who lives in Carlisle, who just, you know, these two women bring a whole new sphere of clients to us, and a whole new energy, sort of targeting the younger families, and for them, it's really easy to transition to doing business differently because they haven't been doing business the old-fashioned way for a long time, where people like myself who have done business, you know, pretty consistently for the last many decades, you know, it's like, okay, now we got to change gears and do things differently. Right. They are very adaptable, and they are really teaching us about buyer contracts and whatnot.
What a position to be in. That's fantastic.
So we are learning from them, and they are learning from us. Yep. And I feel at this point the team is solid, and everybody can stand very strong individually, but they stand even stronger together. Yeah. It was really great. And then we have Caldwell Banker, who has been incredibly supportive of our success.
How long have you been with Caldwell Banker?
Been with Caldwell Banker, well, I haven't changed my desk for about 30 years. I've been sitting in the same seat for 30 years. Yep. But the name keeps changing.
Sure, I understand. All right, but you haven't moved your office.
Right. So I haven't moved the office, but the sign changes.
But the office moves around me.
Right. But Caldwell Banker, I would say it's probably been, you know, around 20 years. And when it first took over.
What was it before?
Before that, it was Hahnemann, and before that, it was Brigida St. Clair and Associates.
Got it.
And when Caldwell Banker took over, I thought, oh my God, this is so not like me, because it's very corporate.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know, I'm more I like to think, boutique-ish,
Sure.
and not big and corporate. But I can tell you, I have been so incredibly impressed with their ability to keep it small and local, but yet to be able to benefit from the global resources.
A hard, tight wire to
Oh,
walk.
it's been incredible. And the ability to refer people out of state or out of the country, or just to have a really great relationship with my upline, my manager, my manager's manager, the president, being able to refer people from office to office,
Right.
to really brainstorm and come together has been a valuable resource for me. And I'm proud to represent the Coldwell Banker brand.
Great. That's fantastic. So your fears ended up being fairly non-issues.
I couldn't have been more concerned, and I couldn't have been more wrong about my concerns. And it was good. It was
we
good.
love that when that happens?
I love that when
Right?
it happens. It's like, don't worry till you need to worry, and I have
sure.
had no reason to worry. It's been a wonderful collaboration with Coldwell Banker, and I'm proud to be part of the organization.
Wonderful, wonderful. And it sounds to me like you have a lot of inter-office or inter-office colleagues and networking events and contacts that you've developed over the years.
Yes.
You had mentioned that
Yes.
you are good friends with another one of our clients who comes in here for podcasts. And I know that you guys are in very different offices, right? The Leominster office versus the Concord office,
Right.
two very different ones. Tell me a little bit about how, from a behavior standpoint, what are you doing to work with other offices and
Well, first of all, I really think that if you're in this business, you have to realize that you really have to have a good reputation with the other people who are in the business, also the other agents. And it's so incredibly important to build relationships with those people, because a lot of them, you will need their help in the future, or they may be representing a listing, or they may have the buyer. And if you develop trust and rapport with them, it will help you so much in the future. And
the long game?
Yes, and we can't know everything, but together we can figure it out.
Yeah.
So if I'm having a problem in an area that I'm not as familiar with, I can always reach out to other professionals
Sure.
from Coldwell Banker or other offices. It's really important. I always say that the audience changes, the audience being the sellers and the buyers, but the cast being the other agents remains the same.
Love that.
So I really not only market when I have a listing to the buyers and other sellers, but I really market it to my broker colleagues.
Sure.
And I need them, and they need me. And if I have 5 offers on a property, and there's one broker that I know that is a straight shooter, who's very professional, who's going to do a good job ushering this buyer into the closing table, then I certainly will share that with my seller.
Yeah.
And not
those are
that
influencing decisions for
right.
sure.
I don't know every great broker, but I know
No.
a lot of them, and I certainly toot their horns because they deserve to be tooted. And I know that Coldwell Banker has a bunch of those good agents, as do other competitors.
Right.
And I'm happy to be part of that community.
Yeah, and it's a small world at the end of the day too. The world of real estate, you can say that every home can be bought or sold. Well, that's true. However, the agents representing them are significantly lesser in number than the number of homes that can be bought and sold.
Exactly.
And so the tighter you get, especially regionally or even locally,
Right.
The more that reputation really is in high demand.
Absolutely, positively.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
So you talked about marketing to other agents. Now, are you talking about just through MLS PIN, or are there other networks that you utilize in order to syndicate, if you would, the listings that you have coming on? Are you using other
Absolutely.
resources?
So, as a strong listing agent, I basically typically know who's walking around town with good buyers. I just have a house that's coming on the market next week, and another agent from another community, another office, has a really hot buyer, and that buyer is a relocation buyer. I knew they needed to buy quickly to get their kids in school, and I reached out to them before this listing even came on the market and said to them, listen, I have the house for your people. It's not on the market yet, but if they are interested, I can get them in before it came on the market, before it comes on the market.
Yep.
And I did, and they loved it. They offered over asking, and everybody is so happy.
Unbelievable.
But that's the type of advantage I have, because I do have listings in different communities and different price ranges. So I know who's got the good buyers.
Right.
I know what people are saying. I know, what's going on. And I can tap into those agents before a listing comes on the market and sort of whet their appetite and have them get the buyer excited. And I do that because in the end of the day, I sell houses, and I want to sell houses to people who are ready, able to buy.
Yeah, DNA. Yep. That's good. That's good. I never heard the term used that way, and I think from moving forward, I will be. So I'm going to steal that from you. If you probably took it from somebody else.
I probably did.
We're gonna propagate it. Is what we're going to do. I know that we're halfway through 2024, more than half. Wow, we're just wrapping up August at this point. What are your expectations for the remainder of the year? What are your hopes? Maybe is the better term.
So I'm very optimistic. I am really excited to end the year off strong. I do think that the summer has been slower than I had wished it would be, but
I agree with you on that one.
Right, but all indications are that the interest rates are going to be lowered. They said on September 18th when the Fed meets, the rates are going to go down. I am so happy to see more cars on the road. During the summer, the roads were vacant. It's like everybody in our towns went on vacation. And now that school's back in session, I'm like loving the traffic because I'm like, they're back. So I'm very excited about that. Our second busiest season is from after Labor Day till Thanksgiving. So we're going to put the pedal to the metal. We're going to make some deals happen, and we're going to end this year strong. I know that there are some people that are worried about the election. I mean, truthfully, I don't think that's really going to matter at the end of the day.
Meet the new boss, same as the old.
Right.
It's not going to.
Right. There are people that need to sell. There are people that need housing. It's, people don't necessarily need a $3 million house, but housing is an essential. And we have some great inventory coming up, and I'm very excited about the ending the year off very, very strong.
Yep. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. I agree with you about the summer being a lot slower than we had hoped for. It's very interesting. We track our statistics internally here.
Sure.
Our business is very different from yours in that we're there on the day one. We're not there on day 60. Right. So we're only there for one day on day one, and that's it. And you never see us again. Right. And so it's one of those things where we're busiest when you guys are getting listings, not when you're actually selling the properties. Right. And so our season runs a little bit different, about 60 days different than what happens with agents. But we've been tracking data since 2016. And we've only been in business since 2013. And so it's just one of those things where we're still experiencing things for the first time, right? We don't know what a down market looks like. We don't know what a crash looks like. We don't know what a high looks like.
Well, may you never know about those markets.
No, may I never know. I plan on staying in it long enough where I will. And that's just it's bound to happen. Course corrections always happen. Hopefully it doesn't happen for quite some time. But this summer doesn't fit the trend of previous years.
It's more typical. The previous years were heavily influenced by COVID and lack of inventory. I can tell you that this is a more typical market, and the more typical market is the summer is slow.
Yep.
Buyers who need to get their kids in school by September are not looking in July and August. No. They're closing in July and August, but they're not looking.
Bought back in May and
they're
June.
not looking.
Yeah.
We have seen longer days on the markets. We have seen more price reductions in our area. 40% of the homes that are on the market have seen price reductions.
Oh, wow.
These are conversations we haven't had with sellers over the last few years.
No,
but these are typical conversations. These are typical conversations. You know, and it is what it is. But at the end of the day, every house sells.
Yeah.
Every house sells. It's just a matter of adjusting the price a little bit.
Right. It's about meeting expectations.
It's about meeting expectations. When I first started, the interest rates were 18%. So,
Man, oh man.
but the average house sold for 50,000.
Right.
So
There's that, right?
whatever.
But percentage is percentage,
Right.
And that's important. But now we're floating around 6.5 right now.
About 6.25, and I think
6.25.
we're going to see closer to 6, and maybe even below 6, which is fantastic.
fantastic.
Which is fantastic. But if you're renting, you're paying 100% interest rate. So that's the rate. The rents are so high. I don't know why anybody would rent. I really don't.
Yeah, other than short-term needs and
It's
and
not
things
a
like
good
that.
move unless you're having, repairing your credit, or you're just not going to be in the area for a while. It makes no sense.
Yep. And you're a testament to that, because you had that whole fixer-upper story arc, we're going to call it, with your husband. 23 times, you said. And I know that not all of them were fixer-uppers, I'm sure, though, but you did say that, it wasn't always from the good to the better. It was from the good to the not as good, right? And we do need to make those kinds of sacrifices in our life in order to go for the long game, right?
Right.
It's back to the reputation management.
Right.
Sometimes you take it on the chin today so that you don't have to worry about it in 10 years.
Exactly. I like to sleep well at night.
Yes. Yes.
I need to feel like I did my best today.
Yeah, you got to be whole with yourself.
You got to be whole, even when it doesn't go the way you expect. And certainly many times I wish I could push the replay button and say, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that. But at the moment, I can say with 100% certainty that I do try my best, and consider it an honor and a privilege to usher people through this process, which often brings out the best in people and sometimes brings out the most nervous in people. So we're there for whatever your needs are.
That's wonderful. Well, Laura, thank you so much.
Thank
for
you.
sitting
This
with
was
me.
fun.
I always enjoy hearing people's backgrounds, how they got into ththings, why they got into things, where they've been,
And why they're staying.
and why they're staying. Well, that was implied, but yeah, that's a good call out. And because you've seen a lot. You've seen a lot, and there's a lot of information to be gained from people like myself who have not been through what the different market situations that you guys have been through.
Right.
And it's always reassuring to see that people that have been in it a while are still staying around, and it's not because the paycheck, it's because at the end of the day, you are enjoying what you're doing,
Right.
And you truly believe in the value of it.
I think when you sell a home, there's so many things that happen when you sell a home. You get a mortgage broker gets paid, a painter gets paid, a mover gets paid, a plumber gets paid, Home Depot gets paid. We
keeps
move
the economy
America,
going.
right?
Yeah.
We move America, and I think we keep the economy going, and I'm just so grateful that I can do my part in that process.
That's wonderful. I've really appreciated sitting down with you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for
very
coming in.
All right.